Commonwealth Scholarships. So studying, if you'd like to study and do your master's degree in the United Kingdom, this is the session for you. Welcome to everybody. We are on Zoom. We are also streaming live on Facebook. So please do share and invite your friends via Facebook as well if you're using that platform. We have quite a lineup for you guys. We will have a guest speaker, the High Commissioner of the United Kingdom to Eswatini. He will give a few remarks, and then we will have our panelists who are current Chevening and Commonwealth Scholarship recipients. There's three people, there's Sephutile, Nkosinathi, as well as Zanele. And then we will have a very long session for question and answers, because really what we are here for is to help you guys as you attempt and hopefully succeed these scholarship applications. I'll start really quickly by introducing TKI Executive Director. I'm sure we all know her and have turned to her for help many times, Ms. Fanele Fakudze, and she will give opening remarks and then introduce our speaker, His Excellency, the High Commissioner. Over to you, Fanele.
Thanks, Sharon. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for joining this event. Sharon, please confirm if you can hear me clearly.
I can hear you perfectly.
Wonderful, thank you. So again, thanks so much for joining this session. TKI hosts quite a number of events following a lot of interest and questions we get from people. And certainly the Chevening events are always one of the most popular events that we host in the country. Sometimes we have to host 2 or 3 of the same event just to meet the number of people who are always interested to join. So with COVID, you know, on one hand, was said that we're not able to have these sessions in person, but on the other hand, for the first time, we have over 1,000 people who've expressed interest in this event, which means that by using Zoom, we're able to reach more people than ever before in one sitting. So this is extremely exciting. I would like to thank a few people who have supported TKI in promoting study opportunities, especially to the UK, starting with the British High Commissioner, Mr. John Lindfield, MPE, who is on the call with us. We also have Miss Louise, who is in the Pretoria office. Some of you who have already tried to apply for Chevening are probably aware of her. We also have on the call a representative from the Ministry of Labour who is standing in for the Principal Secretary. We have the Scholarship Manager on the call. We have our co-founders at TKI. Sephutile Mhlongo is on the call, who is also a Chevening recipient for this cycle. We also have our other co-founder, because there's 3 of us, Tando Lwetu, who is currently an MIT postgraduate student in the US. He's also on the call. We have our esteemed colleagues who are other Chevening scholars, including our host, our moderator for the show, for the webinar today. So just an overall thank you so much for the enthusiastic support that we have received for this very popular series. So briefly about TKI, we are an NGO that was started in 2013, started by just a group of students who were looking for information, and we found that many other people had similar interests as us. We're completely a youth-run NGO, so I am the oldest one at 32 years old, and we are a 100% volunteer-run organization, which means that anyone who's involved in TKI does it by volunteering their time to the different activities that we host. So we've had a lot of success in the past in terms of being able to bring information to people that has been transformative. And certainly the Chevening Scholarship is one such, whereby we've been able to reach people with information that previously did not know about it and assist them in getting the right information to submit successful applications. So I'm very excited that this session is also going to help similar people who are looking to study in the UK for their postgrad, for their masters, we've even received questions about studying for their PhDs in the UK. So welcome all. I hope that this session is very, very useful to you. So today I'm very honored to be introducing our esteemed guest for this event, which is His Excellency, the High Commissioner of the Kingdom of the UK to the Kingdom of Eswatini, Mr. John Lindfield, MBE. As you may all be aware that in 2019, the High Commission was reopened and has become resident in Eswatini again after a number of years where it has been based in South Africa. So we're very excited to have Mr. John Lindfield bring back the office back home here in Eswatini. Mr. John Lindfield, as I mentioned, was appointed in 2019 to hold the position of High Commissioner in Eswatini. He is succeeding the non-resident High Commissioner, which was Nigel Casey. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Who was the High Commissioner in the Republic of South Africa. So thank you so much again, sir, for joining us for this call. We're very excited to have you with us. In the past, we've been joined by, as I mentioned, the Secretariat based in Pretoria. So it's quite exciting that one of the benefits of having the office come back to Eswatini is for you to be able to engage directly with prospective scholars who see the UK as a preferred destination for their postgraduate studies. So I think I will end my remarks here. Thank you again, Sharon, for moderating this session. And I will be hanging out in the background and taking questions on our social media platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Fanele. Over to you, His Excellency.
Thank you very much. And can I first say, it's a pleasure to work with such a terrific organization. The fact that you all volunteer to do this, I think, is amazing. And thank you so much for setting this up, and it's because it's reaching out to so many people. As Fanele said, I came to open the High Commission. We've had a number of challenges on that in terms of building issues, etc. And obviously COVID-19, which has slowed things down a little bit for us. But I'm very hopeful that we will be able to actually move into the building in October. Even though we've got COVID going on, we will hopefully open towards the end of October. So it's been a bit of a struggle on that side, but anyway, without further ado, I will just give you some information about Chevening, and then I will take any questions you have. So the UK has welcomed Chevening scholars since 1983. Sorry, someone's not on mute. That's fine, I think. So yeah, we've been welcoming scholars since 1983, and we brought together some of the brightest minds from across the world to study and develop their ideas, passions and plans for the future, and experience all the UK has to offer. Through education and the brilliant opportunity offered by Chevening and other scholarships, these scholars have gone on to take up some of the highest positions across the globe. Of all the UK scholarships on offer to international students, Chevening is one of the most prestigious and one of the most competitive. As well as offering fully funded master's degrees, it is a unique opportunity for the next generation of leaders, influencers, and decision makers to develop a relationship with the UK that will hopefully grow throughout their careers. Some people may have seen my tweet yesterday where the Foreign Office is no longer the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. We have now joined with the Department for International Development. So we are now called the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, and we fund the Chevening program and partner with partner organizations, and Chevening scholarships are awarded to individuals who demonstrate leadership potential and strong academic backgrounds. Since the programme was created in 1983, over 50,000 outstanding professionals have had the opportunity to develop in the UK through Chevening. There are more than 1,500 scholarships on offer globally for the 2020-21 academic year, demonstrating the UK's ongoing commitment towards developing the leaders of tomorrow. The first 4 Chevening scholars from Eswatini arrived in the UK in 1983, and the numbers have grown steadily ever since. Last year, I think we managed to get 9. This year, we've been able to get 7. So that's really good for a country with such a small population. And I think it shows that the applications are on a very strong basis. So in total, we sent about 100 people. And we hope to offer a similar number of awards, as I said, this coming year. And I think the applications are open today. It's the first day today. So you need to get on. I mean, I would urge everyone to get on with their application, because it does take a lot of time to get it organized. And I'm just giving you a little bit of feedback from what I've seen through going through all the short list of applications. There is a big, I put a big emphasis on the essay. So I think it's really, really important to make sure that you are authentic. I mean, I think from my perspective, when I was going through, and I had about 45 essays to read, so it's quite a lot of work. And if it doesn't come from the heart, it definitely shows in the essay. It's very important to do an authentic essay and do something that you really believe in. And I think if you do that, it'll be successful. Essays that are churned out and just say the right thing. You know, we have seen, you know, we've been around a long time, people who go through these application forms. So it's really important to make sure that it's original and authentic. But we do hope to receive a large number of applications for the awards this year. Chevening scholarships are awarded for full-time, 1-year taught master's degrees at UK institutions, and there are no restrictions on the master's courses that can be taken, with the exception of military training. Common subject study areas include economics and finance, human rights, law management, international relations, good governance, media studies, journalism, development studies, public administration, and some technology, engineering, and energy-related fields. Chevening scholars have to commit to return to the Eswatini after completing their studies in the UK, and to date, as I said already, nearly 100 have benefited from the programme. And these alumni have continued to contribute to development in different spheres in the kingdom, and I've met a number of them since I've been here who have used their status to actually move on to some extremely good and influential positions. What I haven't managed to do, and I was being a bit frustrated about it, is I haven't managed to sort of pull together the alumni in any sort of way. But we do hope to do that once we move into our new office, because I think it's getting the alumni together and driving forward that programme is something that's very important to us. And as I said, a network of alumni around the world through Chevening are connected and working together to make the world a better place. Chevening is not just about studying. We ensure our scholars fully engage with the UK, with events and experiences throughout the year, exposing them to our culture and values, which may be a bit challenging in this next year, but hopefully it will get easier as COVID becomes more under control. Our longitudinal evaluation of scholars before, during, and after their time in the UK demonstrates a positive shift in perception towards the UK and the UK's values. Again, this effect on individuals who go on to take up influential positions around the world is in the UK's interest, and that is why we do sponsor Chevening scholarships. Chevening scholars have ambition, They have leadership potential, a strong academic background, and an excellent record of rising to prominent positions in their countries, as I've already mentioned. It's designed to support Britain's public diplomacy overseas, and Chevening scholarships provide the skills and experience required to achieve at the highest level, while supporting strong relationships with the UK in the future. So I would encourage you to apply. And as I said before, at the interview phase, I think it's a very, very important stage. And if you're going to be successful in this particular program, you have to bring that something extra. There's no point in turning up at an interview and just randomly sort of regurgitating facts that everyone knows. That's not of interest to us. We want to hear something original. We want to hear something different. And we want to get through to that passion that is so important for everyone in this program. So that's all I've got to say at the moment. And I think there's some questions. I think you had some questions for me, Sharon.
Yes. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those remarks. Indeed, we do appreciate, you know, as Eswatini and as a scholar and as a recipient of the scholarship, we do appreciate everything that it offers us, you know, the opportunity, like you said, not just to learn, but also to really engage with the culture, and also being able to network with other leaders and other Chevening scholars from all over the world. It's an amazing experience, and we do appreciate you, Eswatini students, current scholars and previous, really do appreciate that. Just 3 things that I really picked up from what you were saying is the scholarship really is about leadership, and just towards the end you said that it really is a relationship building way as well for the United Kingdom's government to be able to build relationships and kind of extend their reach as well. And ambition, yes. You know, making sure that students or aspiring applicants know that they need to be ambitious and really have a plan and an end goal in mind. I am going to request just that everybody who's on the call, please remember to mute your microphones and also your videos. If you will. And then questions, we are not going to be taking audio questions. We're not going, if you raise your hand, could you please write the questions in the comments section of whichever platform you're on. So Zoom has a platform for questions as well as Facebook. Fanele and Fezobuhle are on the call and they will be taking the questions. So don't worry, we will get to all of your questions. I do have a question, High Commissioner, about the UK priority areas in Eswatini. I know that you mentioned some of the typical, you know, study areas or focus areas, but if you could elaborate a little bit about what the UK mission in Eswatini is currently working on and their current priority areas. And you know, we don't want to say students must apply just for those priority areas, but if there is a word or 2 that you would give, I think that would be appreciated.
Yeah, I think if you actually look at any government policy from the, published policy from the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, you will see that education for women and girls is right up there as one of the priorities, which is a very unusual area, but it's become a massive focus for us because we feel that in general, women and girls worldwide struggle to get access to education. So I would say any program that was focusing on something around that would be appealing. We're also hosting COP26, which is the sort of climate change conference next year. Okay. We're hosting that in Glasgow, and it's one of the things that we will be working with the Eswatini government on to engage more closely with them on it. So what that means is it's around, what does climate change mean for Eswatini? So you have the things around renewable energy, which is sort of solar and wind power and those sorts of things, which are probably the most practical for Eswatini. And then on the other hand, you have the issues around, what is the climate doing to the land, and how is that affecting crop production, animal production, those sorts of things.
Okay.
So that is hugely important to us. In terms, also the carbon footprint is clearly a huge issue, which we're very engaged on. The other area I would say that we are keen to assist Eswatini is on trade promotion. I mean, creating jobs, economic development is one of the biggest parts of my job, to try and encourage businesses. It's very difficult, obviously, at the moment when people can't come here across the border. So we're hoping that the borders will open up soon, and there's going to be more of a free flow of business into Eswatini. But I'm having conversations with the trade ministry and trying to grow that side of the work. The other area that we focus on, not hugely to be honest, but is human rights. So we are very keen to ensure that with the American embassy, the EU embassy, and all the others, we're very keen to ensure that there is a human rights policy that is in line with what we think it should be. And also we try to support the LBGT community as well, because we feel that's important for them to be able to have their voice. So that's basically, I mean, we have a very small team here, so we've got a limit to what we can do.
Of course.
But we do quite a lot for, say, we're quite a small team.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That was a very, very comprehensive list, very key and relevant areas. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And there is one question I think I can just ask. I can ask you, and then I think that will be the last one, and then we'll move on to our panelists. And it's a very simple question about age requirements. Are there any age limits for either one of the scholarships?
Now you've caught me out on that one. I'm actually not sure. I don't think there is, to be honest.
Okay, I don't think there is either. But I just wanted to. I'm
going to have to ask Lois about that one.
Okay, no worries. I'm sure we can find the answer. I believe there is none. But we will check and confirm for the audience.
I think if there was
if I could just come in, I would say there's actually no age limit. Definitely not for the Chevening scholarships.
Okay.
I thought that would be the case, because it would be a discriminatory part of the program, which I don't think we would do for master's degrees anyway. So.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sharon, thank you everybody, and I hope you have a good evening and a very active discussion. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for respecting our housekeeping rules. We see that questions are now coming in on the right platforms. Thank you, His Excellency, for your time with us. And I'm just then going to quickly move into introducing our panelists, which are the current scholars, 2020-2021 recipients. We will have Sephutile Mhlongo, who is going to be studying at the University of Stirling. And we will have Nkosinathi Mavimbela, who is going to be studying at the University of Essex. And we will have Zanele Lulane, who is going to be studying at Cranfield University. These are the people who applied last year around this time and will be traveling to the UK to start their studies. So the way that we will do this is I will allow them to introduce themselves, and each one of them is going to tell us a little bit about themselves, about why they chose Chevening for the 2 Chevening scholars, and Zanele about why she chose Commonwealth. I would like for them to also give us one piece of advice really quickly that they would give to an aspiring applicant, right? This is just us starting everything off with why they chose the scholarship and one piece of advice. To our audience members, I hope you have a pen and paper, a notebook, and you're ready to take all of the notes that you need to take, as well as, just keep an open mind and really listen. These are people's personal experiences, but we have asked them to come here to share those experiences for to be able to help you. Okay, so make sure that you're taking notes and that you're engaging in whichever way you can. Okay, so I will open up the floor to our panelists and perhaps ask Sephutile to start, and then Nkosinathi, and then Zanele.
Oh gosh, okay. Thanks, Sharon. Hi, everyone. I was on mute. This happens a lot on Zoom. My name is Sephutile Mhlongo. I am a co-founder of the Knowledge Institute. I'm also a candidate for a master's in business and management with the University of Stirling, which I'll be able to study through the generous support of Chevening as a candidate for 2020-21. Why did I choose Chevening? Studying in the UK has always been a dream of mine. It's always been a childhood dream of mine. I admire the education system. There are a lot of great institutions, and the UK has such a broad history that I would be very interested in exploring. And just the country also looks very beautiful. So that's why I chose, and Chevening allows for me to be able to study in the UK for my master's, which is just 1 year. So it's a good enough time period to learn culture and also, pursue my goals. And then as for the second part, which is advice, one piece of advice I'd give to aspiring applicants, my one is you need to know what you want to study, and the High Commissioner mentioned this as well earlier, that you really need to know what you want to study and why you want to study that. And before you even start your application, your Chevening application, because that's also going to be asked in the application form, you can explore on the internet, you can explore different universities. The UK has so many universities, guys. And in my place, you can't finish them, like there's so many, and they cater to a wide range of needs and it will be easy, it's simple. When you apply yourself and you narrow down your interests, you can then find something that works for you. You can find something that works for you within and I know it's one of the questions that have come up a lot, within your grades or what you can find a university that's likely to take you with your education background. So some universities have a lot more in terms of they have a lot more requirements, or they have a higher academic requirement than others, and so forth. So you just need to give yourself time to apply for that. So yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Sephutile. Nati, would you be able to go next?
Yes. Thank you, Sharon. I hope I've unmuted.
Yes, unmuted. We can see and hear you perfectly.
Thank you. So I am Nkosinathi Mavimbela. I currently work at the Ministry of Finance in the Budget and Economic Affairs Department. Why did I choose Chevening? Okay, I think the first part was why I decided to do my master's. After having worked with the ministry for, I think, 4 years, I felt it was about time that I upgraded the skills that I'd already acquired in my undergraduate degree, and the UK sort of had the best options that I could apply for. The education system was one of the best that I could find whilst applying, and the universities, they provided really good options. And Chevening sort of provided opportunity to be able to study in the UK and network with a large group of young people that are motivated and ambitious, which the High Commissioner has mentioned as one of the qualities that they look for. And I felt that being part of this Chevening network would also help me broaden my own ambitions and and my career goals. And the second part was Chevening, being a generous scholarship, provides the chance for you to study in the UK and also experience the culture, because you can have enough to study and travel around to experience. So the UK culture was another draw card for me to apply through Chevening. So as part of my motivation to go to the UK culture-wise, even yes, it's important to also think about the social part of it, not just academic. So it does give you that experience as well to enjoy being in the UK. The one advice that I would give to applicants is, when the approach that you should take when writing your essays is to ensure that you have a flow throughout each essay. Think of it as one complete story. One thing that I've seen is that we tend to put our points haphazardly, and you lose the coherence throughout the essay, and that is a challenge, because now you can't have a clear story for the people reading your essay to follow it as one story, as what motivated you to study, to apply for the Chevening scholarship. So I think that's the main one. Just ensure that you have one flow, and it becomes easier to have that one story when you know what you want to do in the UK. You must be clear why you want to study that specific program, as Sephutile had already mentioned. So first think about why that particular program, and then you'll have it a bit easier writing your essays. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nati. And then I'll hand over to Zanele.
Hi everyone. My name is Zanele Lulane. I graduated 2018, and ever since graduation, I've been a volunteer, which I believe it is that volunteering experience has been of great assistance in my scholarship application. So why I chose the UK? Basically, I chose Cranfield University. It has always been my university of choice. So since undergraduate, I decided I wanted to study at Cranfield University. So to get funding, I think I had identified two or three scholarships, which were the Chevening, Commonwealth Masters, and the Commonwealth Shared. So I applied for the Chevening and the Masters and the Shared, but I was successful on the Shared. And given the chance to stay, even if I was accepted probably for the other scholarship, I would have chosen the Shared, because it was focused mainly on academic excellence, which I feel like, other than leadership, as though I am an aspiring leader, I try to get involved. I feel like I'm still looking for an opportunity to grow my academic abilities, which under the shared scholarship, I would say that will be the case. And Also, okay, the chat is actually for people who are solution driven. So I think that's me. So basically that was it for me. That's why I chose the UK. And so the UK basically was the fact that I've been educated in Eswatini all my life. I feel like my thinking and the way I view life has actually been informed by Eswatini only. So I feel like I wanted to actually view life at a different perspective and actually interact and connect with people from different cultures and different backgrounds, which I believe will be of substantial growth in my career and actually personally. So what advice I would give to actually aspiring scholars? What I would say is that this scholarship is actually worth, when I calculate, it's plus or minus $1 million emalangeni, which you'll be getting to actually fund your studies. So when you are drafting an application, keep that in mind. Like, why would somebody want to spend $1 million on you? So you cannot just write it in a week or in a day. So you need to invest your time in writing it. You need to focus on it. I don't know what I can say, but a lot of work needs to go in, a lot of work. So that's what I can say. It's just, it is not free. Somebody wants to say it is not free because you have to pay for it through the application process. Your essays need to be worth the money. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Zanele. Thank you to our panelists. Wow, I think what Zanele just said really will kick us off on a good note, that you need to ask yourself, why would someone give you 1 million? You know, I always say that million. What kind of student would you want to give that money to, right? Like, what kind of candidate would you want to give your money to? So I think that's very important. Other important points that Sephutile said as advice: know your story, know what you want to study even before you start the application process. And Nkosinathi reminded us that your story has to have a flow. It has to be a complete story so that all of your essays kind of flow together and tell the story that you have decided to tell. And so I'm going to go into some of the questions that we're receiving. We received a lot of questions before the event. So I'm going to take 2 questions that we had already received, as well as some of the questions that are coming in today, just to balance things out. There are a few things that I feel like I can just say out of the bat, so that we get that out of the way in terms of eligibility requirements. So someone asked if the application is genuine, and I'm proof that it is genuine. It is not a scam. The Chevening scholarships and the Commonwealth scholarships are not a scam. TK, I would not host a session for it, but this is a genuine scholarship, as well as there is no application fee for the Chevening scholarship. And so if you are ever put in a position where someone is asking you to pay to apply to Chevening, that is not correct. There is no application fee for either one of those scholarships. As the High Commissioner already said, even though Eswatini has their own, the UK mission in Eswatini has their own priority areas, the scholarship is not limited to those priority areas. I want to be clear about that, that we're the priority areas are not that we're only going to take people in that field of study. You can study for any courses. I saw a question about sports administration. You can study any course in the United Kingdom. You just need to find the university that offers that program, and then you would be able to then continue to apply for the Chevening scholarship once you've received your admissions to your university. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and ask 2 questions to the panelists. One question says, how does one go about to apply? So I think I'd like for 2 responses, one from either Sephutile or Nkosinathi and another one from Zanele. How does one go about to apply? Please think about responding to this question in terms of your own process. A lot of questions are also coming in about whether you start with applying for the university or you start applying for Chevening. So please walk us through briefly your process of how did you go about applying for the scholarship. Maybe Sephutile, if you'd like to answer, and then I'll ask Zanele to answer for Commonwealth.
Okay. So for me, this was not my first time applying to Chevening. I've always known that I wanted to study abroad, and I had applied in 2018, if I'm not mistaken, 2017, and I already knew the process. So maybe I'll talk about my first experience because this one was relatively easier. So the first time I applied, I went through, which is what we're saying now, that you really need to know what you want to study and why. You really need to know your W's, what's, why, and all of those questions, your key questions. So I went, because I knew what I wanted to study, and because I had an idea of what I wanted to study, and I had explored the different options that were available to me. By the time I studied, I had already had a conditional offer from one university. University applications to the UK are open all year round. So that's one thing that you can take advantage of, that you can always apply, you can always test things out. And some universities might charge you, other universities do not have an application fee. So, but don't waste people's time at the same time. So just try to find a balance where you're actually applying and you apply yourself, and then fix yourself along the way. So I'd applied for Chevening. By the time the application opened, I applied, and I went through a process where I had my first drafts of essays, because the essays are like the big question, right? I had my first drafts of essays, and I had someone review it for me. And the feedback I got was so many, it was just like, we need to sit down for this because, sis, this is not it. So I got the assistance where, they gave me pointers. This is how you can make your story more coherent. Instead of focusing on this, why don't you focus on this part of you, because you've done this so well. So that's what, asking for help helps you see yourself in a different light and how you can better sell yourself. And that's one other thing where we tend to fall short as Swazis. We're shy, we're like reserved, we're humble. This is not the time to be humble. This is the time for you to say, I got straight A's, I was captain of this, I did that, you sell yourself to the fullest because you want this. And so that was for me the process, that having someone help me review, and I revised until it went to a point where it was like, okay, this is fine. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. And you need to give yourself time. You're not gonna start on the day before the deadline and be like, okay, I'm applying for Chevening. No, you're not gonna make it. So you need to give yourself time. The application is open today. You can set up a profile and review it until the deadline, which is in November, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah.
Okay, thanks, Sephutile. Time, guys. I think time. Like everyone keeps saying, Guti, you're investing a lot of time, because the investment that somebody is making on you is incredibly, incredibly valuable. And you won't be able to ask for help if you are doing it last minute. So if you start early, you are able to write and do all of your applications, and you will be able to see your gaps early, right? So time, start today. The application's open today if you're able to start today. So that you have all of the time to get all of the drafts that you need, to ask for all of the feedback that you need, and make yourself better. You're not going to be able to do it in one go. Okay, Zanele, would you like to walk us through your process?
Okay, thank you, Sharon. I started applying for scholarships in 2018, which was the first time I applied for the Commonwealth Scholarship as well. So that year I applied on my own, which I believe was a huge mistake. I had nobody to mentor me. I had nobody to proofread my essays or anything like that. So I just applied, and then I thought to myself, this is good, this is great. And then I sent, but I was not successful. And I had applied for quite a few scholarships and I was not successful for all of them. So, okay, that's very same year, 2018, I applied for university. So I actually applied for 2 universities and I was accepted for both. So moving on to 2019, I decided to defer my offer at Cranfield University and start the application process again. So I will say what assisted me was actually having a mentor. So my mentor actually was assisting me with the Chevening application part, but I feel like that guidance actually shaped me on how to write for scholarships. So for the Commonwealth Scholarship, I actually did it all on my own. Reflecting on the guidance I received for my Chevening scholarship application. So it was a bit long, but yeah, now I can say it was worth it. So with the application process, it is Commonwealth Shared Scholarship are funded by the Commonwealth and different UK universities. So when you send in an application, you actually send it via the Commonwealth portal and via the university portal. So for me, for my university, because different universities have different application processes. So for my university, I had to actually submit a development impact statement and then my certificate to apply for the scholarship and then fill in the Commonwealth scholarship application form. But for different universities, there are different procedures. I'm aware in some universities, you just have to state in your application that you would like to be considered for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship. So I think that was my application process. And then it was the essay writing. Yeah, there were a lot of essays. I think close to 4,000 words or so. So I had to invest a lot of my time. I had to lock myself inside a room alone for like 4 to 5 hours just to write 200 words probably, and then cancel them again. So I would say that was a process. I had to invest in it a lot, and I would advise everybody to just invest in it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Zanele. So just to maybe quickly summarize what our panelists have said, and just a few reminders. So what I'm hearing is the process basically, like Sephutile said, the university applications are open all year round, right? So our suggestion is this: look for the university that you would like to study in as early as possible. Within the Chevening application, you are asked which universities you would like to go and study at, should you receive the scholarship. So technically that means that you should have already done your research through and through about the university that you want to study in, as well as the course that you want to study in. You need to have 3 of those. So you really need to have already done a lot of the groundwork before you even apply for the Chevening scholarship. You don't have to have the acceptance letters for those universities, but you really do need to know your course. So just as a summary to that is the process that we are seeing. Zanele, I think what we saw from Zanele is that she already knew from beginning which university she wanted to study. And that's another way of going about it. If you have a very specific place that you want to go to, that's fine. If you do not, please take the time to do the research, look for all of the universities in the UK, look for courses in those, and just do your research and make sure that you find places that you know fit exactly what it is that you want to study, and even the institutional culture, organizational culture as well fits you. So please remember to look on the scholarship website, look on the university websites, and do your research before you even attempt the scholarship. So now we're going to shift gears a little bit, because I want us to talk very specifically about the academic requirements, right? A lot of people are asking about what qualification you need to already have. And just as a basic rule, unfortunately, you cannot apply to either one of these scholarships with an associate's degree. You do have to have a bachelor's degree. You do have to have good academic a good academic record. I would like to ask the panelists about what kind of documentation they needed to show for their academic background. It's very hard when we get asked questions like, if I have a 2.2, those very specific questions. We cannot answer those specific questions because those are university specific, as well as the fact that, Chevening will look at your academic record and you cannot obviously have failed, but that is not the only thing that they look at. And so even though we want to speak about the academic record, which is why I'm asking the panelists to do that, we do want to make sure that you don't think, we can't answer specific questions about specific grades that people are asking us. So panelists, if you could just talk about the documentation that you may have, that you had to submit for both your institutions, your universities, as well as for Chevening and Commonwealth, sorry. Nkosinathi, would you like to start us off?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to talk about I saw a question about getting a 2-2. Yes. I think the thing about Chevening is that in as much as academic excellence is part of the whole process, I think overall excellence as a leader in your space is what they look for more. The fact that you got a 2-2, that would count more the university that you'd actually get into and the course that you'd be accepted for. So I would say, even if you have that 2-2, you can apply, because it's more about you being a leader as a person in the space that you're working in and being motivated enough. So that's that on that one. You asked documentation?
Yes, your certificate, yes. All of that, yeah.
Yes, if I remember correctly, what's needed is your certificate, and the English proficiency results are needed later on. So I think the first thing that's needed in the application is your certificate and transcripts, and I think there's also your CV that you need to upload as well. So those are the main things that you need to start the application process.
Okay, Zanele.
Okay, for me, for the university application, I needed my transcript and my certificate, which was also the requirement, I think, for my scholarship. So the Commonwealth Child Scholarship is actually focused on people who are solution-driven and also on academic excellence. So I wouldn't say a 2-2 disqualifies you from actually getting the award, but I think it's something you have to keep in mind, that it is actually an academic excellence scholarship. And also I think it is critical that you try to get the grading system of your chosen university, like what a 70% equals to in their term. Like probably for them a 70 is a first class, to you it is a second class first division. I think that's also something you need to ascertain, because it's critical. So I would say that's it for the community.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sephutile.
Okay, yeah, it's basically those documents that they've mentioned, the certificate, your CV, your transcript. My university required my transcript. And one thing that, like Zanele said, that there's different gradings for different universities. And yes, with the University of Eswatini, there's the assumption that when a UK says a 2-1, it's automatically what is a 2-1 in Eswatini. But I think the biggest takeaway for me during this process was the Chevening requirement is there to ensure that you are someone that can meet the requirements of the university. Like they need to make sure that you can qualify and be accepted into a university, and therefore they can now sponsor you to study at a university. So it's kind of like, it comes across to me as a way to filter out, you know, what can and cannot happen, so that they're able to focus on people who can actually go all the way instead. And it's not meant to discourage you, but it's just, if you're able to get into a university with the certificates that you have, I know people have, you know, I've done this and then I've added this, that's fine. If you're able to get into a university and perhaps Chevening considers you and you go into the interview and they want to consider you further, it shouldn't be a thing of actually, no university is going to take me with this degree or whatever. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much to our panelists. I hope that answers quite a number of the questions about eligibility requirements in terms of documentation and who all is eligible. Please, again, do make sure to check the eligibility requirements as well. The Chevening page and the Commonwealth page also have those things listed as well. I want to quickly talk about the English language proficiency test. I know some of our panelists have mentioned it, as well as we've received questions about them. And so before this year, basically, the TOEFL, which is Test of English as a Foreign Language, was a requirement for the Chevening Scholarship. It is no longer a requirement. It has been waived. So on the official website of the Chevening application, it says that you do not need the TOEFL anymore. However, as a point of clarity, please remember that requirement has been removed only by the Chevening Scholarship and Commonwealth, but your university that you're applying to might still want that from you, okay? So make sure, again, before you say, oh, I don't need TOEFL, to make sure to check with your institution. If they require the TOEFL, then you need to take the TOEFL, and that is at your cost. The TOEFL does actually cost money, but it is at your cost, and it is not, you're not paying it to Chevening, you're not paying it to the scholarship, you're just doing a test, an English language test for yourself. Okay, so we do want to make that clear. And, you know, just as a matter of personal development, I would still say, look, if you're able to study for the TOEFL, study for the TOEFL. It's just a good test to have, not just for this specific scholarships, just in general, right? Like, I'm here with the Knowledge Institute, we're all about knowledge and power, so do it anyway. Even if it's not a requirement for this, just do it anyway. It's a good test to have for sure. And then I'm going to quickly ask our panelists to talk a little bit about work experience. A lot of people have asked us questions about the eligibility requirement that Chevening has. Chevening has 2 years. You need to have worked for at least 2 years, I believe. For Commonwealth, and Zanele will correct me. I believe it's at least 5 years. So I'd like for our panelists to talk a little bit about that. But in addition to talking about, you know, obviously the fact that there is that minimum requirement, talk about the kind of work experience that you had to speak about, right? Just to give a little bit of insight, even as you think about your work experience, what is important to pinpoint and to highlight about your work experience, right? Because we don't want a chronological thing. You know, you are going to submit your CV, but we don't want just a chronological, I worked here. So how did you incorporate your work experience into your application processes? I'd like for all three of you to respond to that, and maybe Zanele can start us off this time.
Okay, I wasn't expecting to be the first to speak. But okay, for Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, there is actually no work experience required.
Oh, okay.
So you can, yes, you can actually apply while you are straight from class. But probably it has an advantage. Personally, I would say I did not, or I did, but post-graduation, I was a volunteer. So the only experience I actually listed was my internship and my voluntary experience.
Okay.
So, yeah. So basically, I do not focus on that section so much, but when stating, I actually state task accomplished, I would say achievements during my time as a volunteer and as an intern. So I think it's roughly 150 words assigned to the work experience and everything like that. So there is nothing much to write.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Just a quick note on there. Just to tie something that you've already said, Zanele, I think you said at least 2 times that the Commonwealth Scholarship is about solution driven. And I really want to reiterate your point, because even as you're talking about your work experience, I can tell now that the way that you answered your questions is task accomplishment, so there was a problem. This is what I did to fix the problem. And I think that is one very important way of thinking about work experience is not just the actual work, but being solution driven and wanting to solve problems proactively through the work that you are doing. So I think maybe in 150 words, you were able to do that. Good job.
Thank you. There wasn't much anyways.
Okay. All right. Sephutile and Nati, either one.
Okay, thank you for that, Sharon. And sorry, just to take you back on the English language requirements, if you do find yourself needing to take them for the university. So with my university, I didn't need to take one, but I did do a bit of research on like what English language, and the universities they've become a bit more lenient in terms of tests that they accept. And my university was actually accepting a Duolingo test, which is a lot cheaper than TOEFL. So just take your time and go through all the T's and C's, all the fine print, all the tiny words when you're doing your application, because you can find little gems like that could save you a lot of money along the way as well. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. And then with regards to Chevening's work experience requirements, there, as you mentioned, it's 2 years or an equivalent of 2,800 hours. And in the past, I did not check in fine detail, but in the past, like volunteer experience, internships, those qualified as part of your work experience they accumulate to, if they accumulate to 2,800 hours, then you're eligible. But if they don't, then you're not eligible. You're automatically just cut off at that point. With the application, you will find that you have a section that actually asks you to list out your work experience, and you in reverse chronological order, and that's the one that's going to end up doing the calculations for you as well. So you don't need to then list it again in your essays, but it does come in handy if you are able to integrate your work experience in answering the questions. How have you, so integrate your work experience into the questions, but also be able to, at the end or towards the end, link that to your next steps. Like once you've graduated, how's that going to help you? How's that going to help your country or your company if you're going back to that one, or the region or whatever, right? So for me, what I did was I talked about my work experience in my essays in detail, but not just saying I was this person, I was this title, because I can't speak about it, but I was this title, but it was more about, so for example, in the leadership and influence question that comes up, like which project did I work on? What was my influence? And I like that they call it leadership and influence now, because if the influence is very important, because you don't necessarily have to be a manager, you don't have to be the director or something, but you have influence in the work that you do, and just be able to talk about it because of my efforts, or because I did this. This was the end goal that was achieved, and these are the challenges. If there are challenges that were achieved, that happened along the way, this is how we navigated the challenge, and this was me showing leadership in that. And I think another thing that, you know, when you speak about your work experience, be able to quantify, if possible, quantify, you know, your impact, quantify your influence with use numbers to quantify that, where you can, so that, you know, you're not just saying I did A, B, C, D, but I did A, B, C, D, and or I made so much money for my company, if that's what you do, and this was solely led by me, or whatever happened along the ways and so forth. Just able to quantify, or I influenced so many people to be able to achieve A, B, C, D. Just quantify it, and it really strengthens your application. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Numbers are always important. Let me allow Nati to talk about his work experience.
Yes, just to go back to something that Sephutile said about internship counting as your work experience. I just went on Chevening page real quick to confirm something. So, in as much as the internship counts, if it was part of a requirement for your undergraduate degree, then that does not count. So just to clarify that, it must not count towards your attainment of the degree. And then as for how I approached my work experience, it's basically more or less what Sephutile has covered. What I wanted to add onto that was how my work experience also helped in showing what problems I had encountered or spotted during that period working my current job, and why I chose the degree that I chose, and how it would help me solve these problems that I've spotted. Yeah. So that's the other approach, that the one thing that you need to keep in mind as you try and put across your work experience. It must link back to your essay again. So it's back to it flowing, the whole essay flowing, because if you're going to talk about your work experience and then it doesn't exactly show in your essay why you want to do that degree that you've chosen and how it will help you, then you can't just list everything that you've done with no particular link to anything else in your essay. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Okay. Thank you. That's perfect. I actually was hoping someone would say that in as much as all work experience counts, all work experience doesn't count. You know, it only counts if you can tie it back to really the reason that you want to study. I do also want to clarify that the Chevening does want 2 years of experience. So, you know, it doesn't have to be consecutive, 2 years consecutively, but it is important for you to have 2 years of work that you can account for, and that we can see. I would like to shift gears a little bit and ask about, we're going to talk about the interview process as well. In a little bit. I know a lot of people ask questions about that. So I'd like to ask the panelists to talk us through their interview experience. Now, the interview is obviously a huge part of the process, and there's lots of different ways maybe that we can answer questions about interviews. But I would like us to address you know, basic questions about where does the when does the interview happen? Where does the you know, how long it is, etc., etc. But then I want you to maybe think back to your experience about what do you think made you stand out, right? And that's a very strange question to ask the panelists, but I want you to actually think about what do you think it is that made you stand out in terms of how do you prepare for your interview? Do you, you know, the High Commissioner, when he was here earlier, he said, you have to do something extra. You know, if you could maybe think back to what do you think is that something extra? I would appreciate that. And then also Ms. Lois, that Fanele had introduced, Alusala from Pretoria, who has worked with us with the program for a very long time, from Pretoria, but in Eswatini, is also here, and I would like for her to also weigh in on the interview process, because she sat in all of the interviews, I believe, in the past few years. So if the panelists could start, and then we'll hand over to Lois as well. Ngubani ofuna ukuqala? Zanele. I feel like I'm always picking on Zanele.
No, okay, for the Commonwealth Child Scholarship, there are no interviews.
Okay.
So actually the selection process is done by the university, so no interviews,
okay.
Unless the university decides their interviews.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Sephutile. Hello? Sephutile, are you still there?
Yes, but I got disconnected, so perhaps someone else can go.
No worries. Nati, do you want to go? And then while Sephutile sets back up?
Yeah, sure. So your question was where and how long?
Where and how long, yes, and then just your own experience with it. Yeah.
Okay. So this year, the interviews were held at Royal Villa at Zulwini. Okay. And I think mine was probably 20 to 30 minutes long. So yeah, it's normally that long.
Okay.
My own experience, Sharon, I mean, I don't even know how to answer what made me stand out, because I wouldn't know. But right. I would say that the High Commissioner mentioned being authentic in your essays. So I think that's the one part. You need to tell a story that you won't even need to memorize, because everything that you've written there is who and what you are and what you believe in. Because the interview is mainly about you elaborating on what you had already said in your essays, and I believe it's just you showing the panel that you really are this person that you said you are, and you just give more examples and elaborate on whatever that you had said there. And the questions mainly around what you had already said. So as far as preparing for it, I'd say what I did was to read and reread and reread my essays until the very last moment. So yeah, that was me.
Okay.
That was my experience.
I like what you just said. It's who and what you believe in, you know, and if it's not authentic, then you have to overthink it, right? But if it really is truly, I want to study this for this reason, and I really believe that this course of study is going to make this kind of impact. And if it's coming from that place of being really authentic, meaning that you've really actually found a problem in society, in your field of study, that you want to address, and that you believe that this study is actually going to help you to address that. you don't have to, you know, if it really is who and what you are, I think that really helps to make the interview process flow a little bit better. So I really like what you said, because it's about a part of the application process that we need to emphasize, which is authenticity, being true to yourself and not thinking you're going to do something just because you think the High Commissioner wants to read it or Lois wants to read it, right? Being true to yourself and what it is that you actually really want to do. Sephutile, can you chime in about the interviews?
Yes, I'm happy to chime in about the interviews. So, gosh, sorry. So the interview process, it was fun. For me,
this is good.
For me, it was really fun, because that's the thing. The thing is, which is why I keep emphasizing on why you need to be prepared, and why everyone actually keeps emphasizing on why you need to know your story. It makes it so simple. It was such a simple thing to get through. It was fun. It was, you know, when the questions come in, because this, and again, I really wanted this, right? So I gave it 110% all the way. So when the question came in, I was there, I was ready. I'd also actually, and before the interview, I'd actually asked, you know, on social media, like, hey, you guys, you've gone for the interviews, what tips would you give? And there's a lot of content, even online on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it, it's there. There's a lot of content where people give tips on how to be successful, how to have a successful interview process. So for me, it was really just an easy one. And I think one thing that I wanted to, oh, you would also ask so yeah, I think that's it on my interview experience, which might not be very helpful to some people, I'm sorry, but literally I was prepared. I'm always there, just ready, and I really wanted it.
Okay.
But what made me stand out, a lot of things. I have, not to put myself on, but I have an impressive profile, right? So even going in, I was very confident, because one thing I told myself going into the interview was, Chevening wants to give this to you. You just need to do your part. So it was, I just need to remember that I have an impressive profile. I need to talk about it and extensively until they tell me to stop, you know? So I think that's one of the things. And like when you're going for a scholarship like Chevening or any other scholarship really, you need to understand, you need to take the time to read through their info packs and whatnot, and then see yourself, am I a Chevening fit? Am I fit for a Commonwealth fit, or whatever the case, which is what Zanele has actually told us, because she's got like an impressive profile as well. So if you're not a Chevening fit at that point in time, what can I do so that during the next cycle, I am a Chevening fit, and start working on that. Whether it's, I need to speak up more in meetings in the office so that I'm given projects and I lead those projects to success and I can have a story to tell. Or, you know, I've always had a passion for helping ABC. So let me start doing that. And perhaps by the time I am ready, the next cycle comes in, I'm ready, and I meet the profile of the scholarship that I really want. And so yeah, that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very, very wise words. I really like that. It really speaks a lot to, you know, trying again, you know, which is something that I know, you know, someone had asked, what advice can you give me about trying again? Or, you know, people who might feel discouraged. I think that that's such an important thing, is that, you know, when you do attempt these scholarships, and maybe even as you start to write your application, or you start to write your personal statements, and you see gaps in your in your, maybe your knowledge or maybe your leadership, or whatever the case may be, you know, it's very, very important that you're able to, because when we keep saying that Chevening is about leadership is not just about leading the community, it's also about personal leadership, right? So as you do your own personal development, if you feel like there's gaps in your knowledge, there's gaps in your leadership, there's gaps in your skill, community service or whatever, just take the personal leadership and go fix that, right? Like Sephutile said, if it means, you know, talking more in meetings, if it means going to volunteer, if it means, you know, giving your time to an institution, organization, whatever the case may be, that's personal leadership. You know, before you even want to demonstrate that you're a leader in your field, you're a leader at work, you need to be able to take ownership of your own life and make sure that whatever gaps you fill, and then you can go and try again, right? But don't then sit and say, oh, this thing is too hard. So I hope that helps, you know, some of the people who are saying, oh, I've applied before and things like this. I would like to introduce Miss Lois, who is the Chevening Officer in the British High Commissioner's Office in South Africa. And she will, I would like for her to chime in a little bit about interviews because she has experience in that. And then Lois, I would also like to ask 2 other questions to you about whether or not that were asked that is there a quota for Eswatini scholars each year, as well as a question about MBA funding. If the Chevening scholarship is enough for MBA studies. Welcome, Lois.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon. And thank you so much for Fanele and Sephutile and everybody at TKI for putting this together. I have been privileged to work on this program for a couple of years now. I think 5 years. I've been doing Chevening for the past 5 years. But I've worked on scholarships in Africa for quite a bit of time, almost 10 years now. And so I've been around the block, had the privilege of seeing individuals and what opportunities this can be. So really grateful. I have a couple of issues that I just want to raise on. Maybe I'll answer your questions first before I talk about the interviews, because that I feel like there's a little bit more that we could talk about. So number one, in terms of the quotas, we actually don't have a quota for Eswatini. It's just dependent on the the amount of funding that we do get every year. And depending on there is a calculation that we use within the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office now. And that's dependent on the relationship we have with the country, the funding we've got from partner organizations, and also with regards to the population size of the country. So we've been very fortunate to have maintained the sort of high level number of awards for Eswatini. Having 9 for Eswatini is really generous, and I'm quite glad that that relationship has been going on. With regards to MBA funding, there is a limit, there's a caveat, although it's identified as one of the courses that we fund, there's a caveat that Chevening will only contribute up to £18,000 towards towards your tuition fees. And that's specifically because MBAs in the UK are very, very expensive. You can still get an MBA within the £18,000 quota in some institutions, but if you want to go to do your MBA at Oxford or Cambridge through the Chevening scholarship, then Chevening will only contribute £18,000 towards that program, and it will be incumbent on yourself to find the additional funding. So to give you an estimate, I think at Oxford, we're talking in the excess of £55,000 for tuition fees, which is quite hefty. It's actually much more than the value of a normal Chevening scholarship. And that's why there's a caveat towards how much will contribute towards your tuition fees. Going back to interviews then, I want to say the fact that you all on this call means that you consider yourself to be leaders and game changers in your different fields. So well done for being here. number one. So I think that's the right attitude and the right mindset. But just to give you a little bit of perspective, so for the current cohort where Sephutile is amongst them and Nkosinathi as well, is that we received 52,000 applications globally. And you will be, if you make the application, you'll be amongst those numbers. So we expect that this year will be the same or maybe even surpass. And we had 5,000 applications. Most of them were done online because that was a difference. But when it comes to application interviews, for example, in Eswatini, we still had the face-to-face interviews. I think what we look for from the Chevening side is that we look for what makes you stand out. And I think, Sharon, you asked the panelists, what made you stand out from that perspective? So when you make your application, your colleagues mentioned very clearly that you should look at what sort of application you're putting in. In the Chevening Scholarship, there are 4 specific areas that we look at. The first one is, it is a leadership program. So we're looking for highly ambitious individuals. So there will be a question about leadership. And so you have to explain yourself. So write down about leadership. What does leadership mean to you and how does it look like? And because we are very fair, and I've always tried to get a tricky question in Chevening, they've never allowed us to have those tricky questions. There will be a question covering leadership. So you should expect that you'll get a question on leadership. Everybody who's been through Chevening the last few years have had to answer about leadership. What do they understand by leadership and how can they demonstrate that they're standing out as leaders? Then we've got networking. It is a global network of leaders. Definitely you will write about networking in your application form. We will ask you about networking in the interviews. So be prepared, find out. Please don't come and tell us about, this is a bad example, so forgive me for this, about networking within the internet space and computers. No, there are different ways of networking. Please think about it. Think about how you impact your networks within your different sectors in your country, in your community, and more importantly, globally. Then we will discuss issues about studying in the UK. It's a lot of money, a big investment, like Sharon mentioned right at the onset. So when you're doing your motivation for your application form, you will be assessed on why the UK, why do you want to go to the UK as a place of study? But most importantly as well, they'll ask you in your interview to articulate why you want to go to the UK. So think about your specific institution, do a bit more research, dig deeper, and find out why is this the best fit for you, and you need to explain that. And then there's also an aspect about your career change. Although we cannot predict what the future holds, but we do hope that you have an aspiration that whatever skills you're going to get in the UK will add value to you and to your purpose and course in life. So you need to articulate that as well in your interview. So those are the 4 specific areas that you will be guided upon. Overall, I would say preparation is key. Sephutile mentioned that there's a lot of information online. We do have a really good network of scholars, colleagues. Some of them will be scholars in the UK. Some of them are alumni who've returned. Make sure you're reaching out to them. Contact our office. We've got colleagues who are working in Eswatini as well. Reach out to us. Let them help you in terms of interview preparation. Things that have made people stand out, I believe that what we are looking for when we go to the interviews is looking for individuals that are game changers. You all have, we're all different. You all have a different light that you shine in your different spaces. And we're all very unique in that way. So your story can never be my story. And the panel are really looking forward to reading about you. By the time you get to the interview stage, that's really like a 4th type of sift within the Chevening process. You've been through assessors, different types of assessors, reading committees, shortlisting panel. So really this is an opportunity for you to shine. Don't be shy. Some of us are very shy because of our nature. Take time and speak to an individual who can motivate you. So do a mock interview if you have to. This is your opportunity to go shine and impress the panel. Just a few tips. Try and calm down. When I did interviews, I hope it's still the same. We always offer you a glass of water. Please don't come to the interview panel when you're tipsy, because I've seen someone who came to the interview tipsy. That was just like a no, because I think he took too much. Maybe it was to calm his nerves, but he overdid it. So that wasn't good. So there's always water, or ask for a cup of tea. You're talking to human beings. The panel members have read your application, they've read your story, but no one can demonstrate or tell your story like you tell it in real life. When you speak to people, you've got the emotions, you can speak about it. And I like what Sephutile said about knowing your story. Go there and shine. It's your opportunity. If you're nervous, pace yourself. You know, you have that 20 to 30 minutes for your interview. You're giving it your best. You cannot come and tell a story that is not authentic. It will not pass. Just like the High Commissioner mentioned, somehow it will tell that this is not a true story. So take time, arrive on time always, so that you don't panic. Just a few tips. Get there on time so that you don't panic. You can take notes if you need a notepad. If that helps you to calm down, if you're that type of person that you might want to take a few notes, take a notepad, take a pen where you can do that. You can take your notes. You need to demonstrate confidence because you're going to be the leader that you are. You need to look the part as well. That's what I wrote down. I think you need to just gain confidence to share your story. Like every one of us has some value to add in our different spaces. And it doesn't matter where you are within the, a lot of us work in institutions which are very bureaucratic. So it doesn't mean that if you're not the managing director of the organization, then you're not a leader. You might be a junior manager, you might just be an intern that you have just worked, or just a junior staff, that's entry-level staff, but you have a vision of what you want to do. You have demonstrated leadership in that space, so you need to bring it out. And most importantly, if you feel learn strategies, I always say, test it out with someone. Similarly to the application process, maybe this is my last point. Within the application process, I find it with Chevening that it's one application that makes you reflect on yourself. Where have you been? So take that time. Take time to do your application. I hope a number of you have already started with your application process. So take time to reflect on yourself. Where have you come from? Where are you today? Where do you want to go tomorrow? What are the challenges that Eswatini is facing today that you want to solve? What are the global challenges that you want to solve? So you need to be a game changer. And why are you going to the UK? To meet with other people that are going to also be game changers in their different spaces. Remember, you have something to give to the world, and that's what they're looking for. So thank you so much. I think I'll stop there.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lois. We can all go home now, log off, we're done. No, but thank you so much. You know, interviews are obviously a huge part of the process. And so thank you for that insight. Just summary words, leadership is incredibly important. I see a question here, and I'm just going to read it out loud just to remind us of what Lois just said. Someone asked, how significant is the demonstration of leadership for Chevening in comparison to someone who is strictly academic and just passionate about discipline? We now know the answer, that leadership is very important and very, very significant. You need to be able to demonstrate that. So leadership, networking, Lois used game changing a few times, as well as problem solving. So thank you so much, Lois, for all of those insights. And I'm going to, maybe towards the end, we're going to talk about, you know, the nitty-gritty of, you know, when do you get notified, when do interviews happen, etc., etc. I think maybe let's leave that for maybe the last 5 or so minutes. But right now I do want to talk really briefly each of the applicants to talk to us about their personal statement. So we have a question a few questions about the actual essays, which I think Lois touched on already. Let me just read the questions out loud. I'd like to know more about structuring a personal statement. And then there's another one that says, please assist with guidance or tips on how to write an application letter that will enable you to be eligible for the scholarship. I think an application letter, let's just, Ngemabomu say, is the personal statement or the letter of motivation. Someone asked a question that is specific to an MPH, Masters in Public Health, I believe. I don't think any one of you are in that field of study, but can we just maybe go around and talk about the personal statement? How did you structure it? What were the things that you spoke about in your personal statement, which is, for clarity, different than the Chevening essays? That's the ones that Lois was speaking about. Those are different to a personal statement, which you would do for your university application. So that's what we're talking about right now. So each of the applicants, can you please talk to us about your personal statements or letter of motivation? Nkosinathi, if you'd like to start, please.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. Okay, I think with the personal statement, it was, part of it was more or less similar to what Chevening required, which I had already mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It needed me to talk about my work experience and how I would benefit from going to that particular university and doing that course that I wanted to do, and the problem that I would be solving by doing that particular course. And the one thing that I also did was to mention a couple of modules that I had already seen on the school website for that for my degree. So it was part of the motivation that I put in. Yeah, it's basically that. It goes back to your work experience and how doing this course will actually help you.
Okay, thank you. Ladies?
Okay. Yeah, so I actually applied to a lot of universities, and again, it goes to show just how badly I wanted this, right? So one of the things though, when you work on your personal statements, it really helps you figure out and really helps you discover what it is you want and why it is what you want to study. So the university, again, you're going to be asked very similar questions to Chevening. What do you want to study this course and so forth. So yes, you can mention things that are already, if you've reviewed the websites that are already on the website and things that you're interested in. But for me personally, so I'm pursuing an MSc in Business and Management, and what it allows for me to do, or what I hope it would allow for me to do, is merge all my different experiences over the past 5 years since I graduated, which is working in public policy, working in development, and working in having worked in healthcare consulting, and also having co-founded the Knowledge Institute, and also running a business along the way. Just merging that and saying, if you're moving forward as a young leader, as a professional, what are the gaps that I've seen, and what are the gaps that I'd like to fill within just the leadership space, which is where, the course will cover things like strategy and just selling yourself, basically. So that's why the course was a good fit for me because of that, and I was able to, talk about it in 500 or so words, where I just not even merge, but prioritize the key things in my professional life that align with my study objectives and my life plan in a way that is sellable, in a way that I think was appealing to the university. So I hope I'm making sense. I don't know. Yeah.
You are. It goes back to that telling a story, really. Yeah, and kind of thinking about your whole portfolio, personal and professional, and putting all of that together, I think. If I'm hearing you correctly. But yes, it makes sense. Yeah.
Thank you.
Zanele. Is Zanele still here? Zanele, are you still on the call?
I think we lost her. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Can we try and add her? And then in the meantime, oh, hi,
Hello.
Zanele. Yes, you're back.
Yes, I'm back.
Okay. Had you heard?
I accidentally logged off, I think.
Okay. Did you hear the question?
Yes. Okay. Okay. So for me, when it comes to statement, I had to write one even for my scholarship application, a 500-word personal statement, and also for my university application. So the university application, what I focused on was actually trying to prove why I'm a good fit for their water course, because I'll be studying water management. So my undergraduate degree was in agriculture and biosystem engineering. So I had to actually prove to them, okay, this is actually tell my story on how I got to actually like water management and why I'm a good fit. I would say I didn't put much work onto the university application as to the scholarship application, because for the scholarship application, I wanted the money to fund me. So the scholarship personal statement, I think I actually stated a lot. Okay, my strategy is to start with a bold statement just to capture the reader's interest. So that's what I did. And then I think I stated like a few things about my background, like family and things like that, and my journey into actually getting into actually being interested in the field I want to study. And then I had to prove my commitment to this field other than just stating. And also I talked a little bit about my experience as a leader. So I think those are the main things I actually included in my personal statement.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's words of wisdom again. I think two things. That's starting with the bold statement to capture your audience. That's very important. In a previous life, I used to read a lot of personal statements, and I cannot emphasize how important it is to really capture your audience. Not that you're not going to get a scholarship because you didn't capture an audience, but it's important, you know, to think of the other person on the other end and how you engage with them as you tell your story. And I think the other thing that you just said, which I think is really important to hone in on, is proving your commitment to your field versus stating. So there is a whole situation about writing personal statements where we say it is important to show versus to tell. Because if you say, I have leadership skills, everybody can say I have leadership skills. But if you demonstrate your leadership abilities and if you give a scenario where you are able to demonstrate your leadership, or you are able to show that, like Sephutile was saying, because of my leadership or because of my influence, this and this happened, that's showing the committee instead of telling them that you're a leader. And I think that's really important. And then I have a question to the panelists, and we're going to go into like a little bit of nitty-gritty stuff now, which is the cost of applying. I already has said that there are no application fees for the actual Chevening scholarship. So you don't pay money to submit the scholarship. However, there are costs that are associated with applying. Some universities in the United Kingdom do want an application fee. A lot of them will have a fee waiver, so you can actually waive the fee, or you can apply to have the fee waived, and things like this. But I would just like to hear from personal experience from the panelists, the cost of applying, being once you have maybe made it past the actual submit the Chevening application and you've made it through, is there any associated cost, and if yes, how much? But for the purposes of helping somebody else, if you could talk really quickly about that.
Okay. Like you mentioned, some universities have application fees. The university that I went for did not have an application fee, but in a previous life, I did apply to a couple of universities that have application fees. So that cost is there if your university requires a fee for you to apply. But there's also a number of great universities that don't need an application fee. And then once you've submitted and say you've made it, and at this point, that's when some costs are coming in with the visa application. For Chevening scholars, you don't pay for your visa application, which is great because that's someone else is already covering that cost. You'd only probably pay for like courier costs for your passport and that sort of thing. So that those costs are dependent on the service provider, what they charge for those fees. So yeah, and what service that you need, if you need your passport to be couriered back to you. And then there's also a requirement to have a TB test done. And currently the TB test is only done in South Africa, but I'm just gonna throw this in and hope that with us having an office, High Commission office in Eswatini, we're gonna start exploring ways in which that test can be done locally as well. So I guess the costs there are traveling costs going to South Africa to do your test, and also the cost of the test, which is currently 2.5 emalangeni. So yeah, those are the only costs that I've encountered with Chevening. And again, the TB test costs are going to be reimbursed later on. So it's a cost, but it isn't a cost, because then once you travel to the UK, you get your TB costs reimbursed back to you. So yeah.
Okay. Nati, is there anything else that you would like to add, or it was pretty similar for you?
Yes, it was pretty similar, but it's just one thing on the university application fees. I think it is also helpful to communicate with your school as you're applying. I had my conditional offer even before the Chevening deadline, so I let my school know immediately that I was still applying for scholarships. So I was able to negotiate my way out of a lot of fees throughout the process. So they're willing to. You just need to reach out and communicate more with the school. You might find that they might waive some of them. So it's just that. Otherwise, everything else is similar to what Sephutile has said.
Sounds good. Okay, thank you. And Zanele?
I think mine was similar to Nati's. I actually had to communicate to the university just to let them know I'm actually waiting on a scholarship. So they're actually able to push the deadline, because I was told I have this offer, but by the 31st of January, I actually have to have paid the deposit to actually keep it. So it was just to communicate to them that I'm expecting the scholarship. So they shifted the date to actually the 31st of July.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we are nearing the end of our broadcast. We have only 10 minutes, and I need to be very strategic about how we use this 10 minutes, right? So what I'm going to do is, there are questions that are yes or no answers that are easy for me to answer. And so I will go ahead and do that. And then I think what I would like to do is give Lois another 2 or so minutes to talk about about something. So let me just answer these two questions. So someone asked, what does the program cover, or what does the scholarship cover? So the scholarship covers everything. It's a full tuition and board scholarship, as well as you get a living stipend. And it is enough. Okay, you don't have to really worry about it. Once you get the scholarship, really all of your costs are covered, including flights to the UK and flight back home. Once you've completed your studies, all of it, medical insurance, all of it is really covered. So it's a full scholarship, full tuition scholarship. You will get reimbursed your TB money. I remember getting that. It was a nice treat, guys. It was a nice treat. It's not a lot, but in JH, you know, student living. And then there are questions about when you return home to your home country, or after you're completing your studies, are we allocated to a specific firm or industry, or is that entirely up to us? You are not allocated a firm or industry. However, you know, we would hope that it would be obviously aligned to what you were just in the UK studying, and that it would align, you know, to what you said when you wrote your personal statements and when you wrote your application essays. So you're not, you know, put into one space that you have to go here, but it is advisable, and maybe Lois can chime in on this as well. TOEFL tests are taken at Mananga. At least they were a year ago. Mananga is the official test center in Eswatini. And I will then go ahead and give Lois a little bit of time to talk, 2 minutes, please, to talk about, someone asked, is there preference for citizens who studied and worked in their home country? Or is the selection strictly based on how compelling one's application is? I imagine that this might be a question that people are interested in. Maybe they're a Maswati living in South Africa, or a Maswati that have studied in other countries that are wanting to know if they're eligible for either one of these scholarships. And then the other one is along the same lines. I would like to know, what are the basic requirements to acquire the scholarship? Okay, we've already covered that. And is it specifically for Swazis, or could it be awarded to foreigners residing in Eswatini on a long-term basis? So Lois, if you could tackle those two for us, and then we'll come back and do what will be closing remarks.
Thank you, Sharon. In terms of preference, Chevening is purely a merit-based scholarship. So there's actually no preference given to individuals who either are based in Eswatini, Swazi citizens who have worked or studied abroad. Everybody gets a fair chance. It's really based on what sort of application you put through. As John mentioned, if I was thinking of applying, if I was in your shoes, I would consider those specific areas he mentioned too. But what we realize from my experience doing interviews is that if you've been working on a program, for example, in Eswatini, you would be more attuned or aligned. Your thinking in terms of your solutions will really be aligned to what is the current need on the ground. So I think that really comes out always clearly and stands out. In terms of foreigners living in Eswatini, unfortunately, at this point in time, we only consider individuals who are citizens of Eswatini when you're applying, but Chevening is available in over 160 countries and territories. So it's most likely that in your country of citizenship, you will be eligible for a Chevening scholarship. And when you apply, just apply under that country, but dependent on the regulations or the needs of that country, of your country of origin, or citizenship, they'll decide whether you are interviewed. Most of them will decide to interview back at home, but you will fall under the criteria of your country of citizenship. So at the moment, we don't have dual, for like permanent residency purposes. If you're a permanent resident of Eswatini, but a citizen of a different country, we don't you don't qualify under the Eswatini class. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Lois. So now we have 6 minutes between three of us. Thank you so much, Lois, for your insights. And I am going to, unfortunately, we were not able to obviously go through all of the questions that we had. Some of the questions are specific to specific people. But I think what we might do, and I will suggest this to the Knowledge Institute, and I'm happy to jump in and help. To do this, we can answer the remaining questions that were forwarded to us, and we can perhaps find a way to send that document to people, especially who were registered on Zoom. We can send that to them. But thank you so much to everybody who tuned in. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to the TAI organizing team, the people who work behind the scenes to make this happen. Thank you very, very much. It was an absolute pleasure for me to host and moderate this session. I am nearing the end of my own program. I have exactly 27 days until I submit my dissertation, and then I will be done. And so I am truly grateful to Chevening for having awarded me this opportunity. And I will now give to our panelists to say, their closing remarks. We did, a piece of advice at the beginning. And so I would like to just maybe have them say, their parting words in terms of what they are hoping to go and study, and maybe what this process has taught them, just generally the whole application process. We have literally 2.5 minutes, guys, because I took like a minute and a half to myself. So, each of the panelists just go around and say a few words. Parting words. Nkosinathi, Sephutile, Zanele, are we still here?
Yes. So parting words from me are thank you for joining the session and thank you for listening to us. And as you're applying, just remember that the people who are always willing to help, so reach out for help wherever you're stuck. And TKI has a lot of resources for you to tap into. So follow our pages all over the place, and we'll also share this on YouTube as well for you to reference. So yeah, thank you.
Zanele, Nkosinathi.
Yes, Sharon. It's just to thank TKI for hosting this very informative session, and I hope a lot of people that have been asking me questions, I've seen a couple of them online, so I hope they've gotten answers to a lot of their questions. And just to reiterate what Sephutile said, as you're applying, remember this is not the time to be shy. Put yourself out. It's one of the things that I struggled with, having to think of myself in a way that I've never had to before and sell myself. So just remember, it's not the time to be shy. Think about what your achievements and how to put them out there and stand out.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I also would like to appreciate this opportunity of actually being able to share my scholarship journey with people and actually give some advice here and there. But what I would like to say is don't reject yourself. Sometimes you might think your application is not good enough based on what you've seen online or anything like that, but have that faith in yourself. Send it. I'm not saying just do a mediocre job and then send it, but give it your best and then send it. You might not think you are the best, but somebody out there might think you are actually the best and you're the person they are looking for.
Okay. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. I have been instructed also by TKI to just, do a parting shot about let's not, to dispel any fears that, you're not going to get it. you know, and to really actually just go ahead and do your best shot and do the application. The last thing that, you know, we want is that, you know, after listening to this, you feel so overwhelmed that you feel like, oh my God, I can't do it. It's so much work. The reason that we do these sessions and that, you know, TKI is doing it so early is also to be able to give you enough time to think through it and to ask for help. Reach out and ask for help. Don't ever feel shy about that. Don't ever feel shy about getting feedback for your essays and all of that. Look for the help that you need. People are there. Alumni are always there to help. When I was doing my application, I had 2 or 3 alumni looking out for me and you know, reviewing my applications. And I know that even the people who've made it now have asked other people before. So ask for help all the time. It is okay to reach out, and just be confident in your story, own your story, and know that you can do it. And if you don't get it this time, try again, and try again and try again. But Eswatini are in the UK studying through the scholarship, so it is definitely possible. Thank you to the Knowledge Institute. Thank you to everybody for listening to us for 2 hours. We really, really do hope that it was useful to you, and that it will, you know, indeed help you to be sitting perhaps where Sephutile is sitting, where Nati is sitting, where Zanele is sitting next year. Thank you so much, and best of luck to everybody.